My name is Representative Cynthia A. Johnson, and I'm here today to discuss with you our reparation bills. But before I do that, I just want to thank the media, all of the media, for being here, for being here and helping to tell our story. Because it seems like our story has and continues to be lost. Today I am honored and joined by my fellow Detroiter State Representative Shri Thanadar of the 3rd District, and we want to thank you for joining us to discuss the Racial Equity and Reparations Fund Act. The pandemic showed us major inequities Black people face in Michigan. But before I get into that, for those of you who think we are not aware that the United States Supreme Court agreed with a young woman in 2003. Actually, it started in 1997, I believe. This young woman was a student at University of Michigan, and she felt that her rights were being infringed on. She felt that she was being discriminated against. This young woman was a white girl. She's now a woman. And I'm so grateful that she fought for what she believed. The young woman was correct. She should never have been discriminated based on her race. Never. That's what my argument, and those who love people in our families, we've always said that. We should never be discriminated based on race. And so she went to court, and she won. Not the first time. The district courts said, affirmative action is okay because of the racial disparities. But then the case was appealed. It went to the Supreme Court, and forgive me if I don't have the story exactly like it is, but I'm sure those of you can look it up. The woman's name starts with a G. Her last name starts with a G. I don't have her name right now. But again, she was correct. However, her being correct has nothing to do with the 400 years back. 400 years back. And even to present, that we are constantly disrespected, disregarded, dismissed. But the court thought differently. They decided that 25 years after she made her case, that they felt that 25 years after, everything is going to be all right. What this case tells me, it tells Black people, forget you. What happened to you really did not exist. That's what I'm hearing. I want to share something with you. These are Americans. If you know any of these people or might be related, raise your hand, because guess what? Because of these people, you probably have what you have right now based on their statements. The first one is Mrs. J.E. Andrews. She was the president, Women's National Association for the Preservation of the White Race, Georgia. Her quote is, "All we need to do is insist that the Negro get back in line." I'm trying to find. Next one, Strom Thurmond. He was born in he was a senator in 1902. No, he was born in 1902, died in 2003. He says all the laws of Washington and all the bayonets of the American cannot force the Negro into homes, into our schools, our churches, and our places of recreation and amusement. Sam Engelhardt, these are all Americans. He was a state senator. He says, "I have worked Negroes on the plantation for years and have never had a bit of trouble with any of them. I know what is best for them. Our sole purpose is to maintain segregation. That's what we intend to do." He died in 1991. He was a state senator. William Rainich. He was a state legislator in Louisiana. He died in 1978, born in 1913. He says, "I do not believe the two societies should mix." You might be wondering, why am I giving you this little bit of history? I just want you to know these are people living among us. Virginia Johnson, I don't think she's related to me. Born in 1928, died in 2007. She was a politician. She says, "I'm a segregationist." Aren't we all? Going to give you two more. Olin D. Johnston. Born in 1896, died in 1965. He was a governor, U.S. senator. His quote, "I don't run from niggers, but I run them from me." So I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to let you know that I am aware that even though we have laws right now, the words sound good. It makes the palate taste good, but they're only words. We need action. See, when the Supreme Court knocked down affirmative action, I believe that the court really meant for universities. I don't believe that the court really meant for all public spaces. I just don't believe that. But what I do know is that Michigan, and I'm talking about the government, because the people by themselves, you and I, we just vote for these people. We trust ourselves in these people. But I'll tell you, Michigan was one of those states that didn't have to do it, but the Michigan ban also prohibits the state from considering race and gender in public hiring and public contracting, but the current high court case dealt only with the college admission portion. That's good. But the reality is that that's not how it really works. I see it firsthand since being a legislator, being on appropriations. I see how money is given. I see that a corporation can come into their lobbying, and they get legislators to buy into what they want the legislators to do. I'm going to call it out. You want to know what made us really go full force with the reparations piece? Something that I had already been thinking about. What made us start doing our research, and we decided to request bills for reparations for businesses, black businesses, was because when I was in, and I can say it now, when I was in caucus listening to the governor, Lord, maybe I shouldn't say this. When I listened to, and it wasn't just the governor now, it's the Republicans and the Democrats. But the Democrats, since I'm a Democrat, came to us asking us for the support to give $1 billion to a corporation. At the time, I didn't know who they were talking about. Only to find out it actually isn't a $1 billion, it's $1.5 billion. To General Motors. I said, what the hell is this? And then we have legislators who are signing non-disclosure agreements. And I didn't find out about that until after the vote was taken. We have legislators, I love y'all. But we have some people who are voting on legislation and they don't even know what they're voting on. So I figured, hey, if y'all can give $1.5 billion to multimillionaires, then surely we can dip into that pot out of the general funds, because that's where General Motors get. It's not, they just get some cash. It's still on hold, but really? So I know you can give $1.5 billion as a one-time payment to go into the fund that we will create, this fund being called Racial Equity and Reparations Fund. The second bill would be that $1.5 billion, one-time funding, so that it can go into that fund. And how do we keep the fund going? How do we keep the money in there? I'll tell you how. We're not asking for monies to go into anybody's individual hands. We're not even asking the taxpayers to pay this. This bill would require any business like General Motors, Ford Motor Company, any other of the other businesses that come to the state of Michigan and ask for money, those businesses would be required to pay a surcharge up front. A surcharge of 13%. So you ask for $1 billion, and for that $1 billion that you're going to give to the states, you have to go to your bank, and you have to first take it out your bank and take that 13% surcharge and put it into that fund. You're saying, yes, I approve of giving back. I really, truly do believe in equity. I do believe in other businesses who are struggling right now. I believe that they have the opportunity. I believe that they should be given a part of the cake of the, if you will. Just do the right thing. do the right thing. Michigan has a opportunity to do the right thing, I think. This young woman who sued U of M did not obviously sue them by herself. And most legislation that comes before us, and we're not that smart that we come up with it by ourselves. Most of it comes from big corporations. All those billions of dollars, $74 billion of a budget for 2023. And you mean to tell me that you can't find $1.5 billion of one-time how do you say that word? I always mess it up.
Infusion.
You can't find $1.5 billion? Because you cannot pay black people what they really are owed. And we get that. And I want to say this to my white brothers and sisters, those of you who you always say, well, I wasn't born during that time. I know you weren't. I wasn't either. But every time I look at some stats, did you give me those stats?
With the black business?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Every time I look at, and I'll just talk about Detroit for right now. Looks like a map.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. We live. But this is so important, so I don't want to miss it. Thank you. You can share that. Every time I look, and I've been discovering things that's so disheartening to me. When I look at the racial disparities in Detroit businesses, as one example, there is a population of 78% black in Detroit, but there's only 10% of black-owned businesses. Y'all know that's not right.
That ain't right.
Y'all know that's not right. General Motors is not the only company who can provide jobs. And by the way, I hate to tell you this, but they're only obligating to 6 months of employment. That's all that $1.5 billion investment is requiring. Is that right?
Yes,
Rep?
sir. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to let y'all know that. So the disparity gets wider and wider. We know that's not right. I'm going to, I think I've said enough for right now. I'm going to introduce you all to Representative Shri Thanadar. And let me just say before I bring him up, and some people say, well, he's not black. How do you know? How do you know? You see somebody white, you say, oh, he's not black. How do you know? This brother right here, at first I can be honest with you and tell you at first I didn't like you. But of all the legislators, this brother right here, Shri Thanadar, he truly votes for the people. Do we always agree? Absolutely not. But he is for the people. Shri Thanadar.
Thank you. Give me a hug. I wrote the bills up. Thank you so much. It's always hard to follow
State Rep Cynthia A. Johnson. She is amazing. She's my sister. She's my colleague, my friend. And thank you for all. Thank you so much for that.
I love you.
So, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I want to thank Rep Johnson for her work on this legislation and her dedication to spreading the word of what we are trying to accomplish. Because it is big, it is bold, and it is going to take a strong group of leaders and people to make it happen. In many ways, the ground we are standing on helped build the foundation for the legislation we are speaking about today. Today we stand in the oldest black religious institution in the Midwest and a pillar of freedom for those who have long been discriminated against. For 30 years before the end of the Civil War, this Second Baptist Church served over 5,000 people, making the dangerous journey through the Underground Railroad. This is where good people took real bold action. This church served as a beacon of light for our brothers and sisters searching for freedom. We truly stand on sacred grounds at this church.
Yes, we do. Help us, Lord.
Even after the Civil War, Black Americans continue to battle a system designed against them. From jobs that did not pay enough, to segregated and underfunded schools, and discriminatory housing. I'm standing here today, standing with my community because we have to do more. These struggles continue to this day, and it's time to give back to Black communities in Michigan. Unfortunately, in the United States, little effort has been put into truth and reconciliation. We need to admit that America owes a debt, that Michigan owes a debt to our Black citizens, and start to repay that debt. Black Americans are the only group that has not received reparations for state action racial discrimination. We see millions of Americans in entrenched poverty, despite working harder or having multiple jobs and long hours. Instead of re-evaluating our institutions to make sure they do not carry the biases of our history, we allow structural racism to persist. Here in Detroit, redlining has played a role in preventing Black families from experiencing economic mobility. They prevented investment in Black neighborhoods, made it nearly impossible for Black residents to get home loans. Even if you worked hard, the government, the real estate industry, and banks fought to make sure you stayed in the neighborhood that they wanted you to stay in. if we overlap the maps from 1939 to current day, they are almost identical. The level of segregation is almost the same, and the black neighborhoods are still under-resourced and labeled high risk by insurance companies. Reparations are about making up for the generational wealth that was stolen from the black community. They're about making up for depriving people of home ownership and community investment, specifically on the basis of their skin color. They are about supporting schools, neighborhoods, and businesses who must fight harder to educate their youth, keep the community safe, and build economic prosperity. But more than anything, they are about providing equal opportunity. The Reparation Fund will allow black Michiganders a chance to invest in homes, stocks, retirement savings, and more to help build generational wealth. It will also help build a safety net to protect families from economic recession that always disproportionately impact communities of color. These bills will not solve everything, but they are an important piece of the puzzle. We have the chance to send a message that Michigan cares about history, justice, and the prosperity of all residents. You know, in the early 70s, I was living in a small town in southern India. My 6 sisters, a brother, my parents, we slept on the floor. The floors didn't look any different than these. We ate on the floor. We had no running water in the house, unless you count the leaky roof. And my mother, I remember when I was young, I remember walking with my mother in pots and buckets. We'll walk a block to a little spigot, which would only run for a couple hours in a day, and we'll collect drinking water and bring it home. And I came to America, I immigrated because I knew America was known to be the land of opportunity. And I came here so my family can come out of poverty, to help my family. And when I came to America, what did I find? The very first week that I came to America, I went to a neighborhood bank to open an account. And I was sitting there filling out my papers, and a middle-aged white lady walks in. And she says, "We really don't like people like you opening accounts in our bank." I went on, worked hard, went to the university, worked at University of Michigan, got my PhD, got a lot of credentials, and I wanted to start a business. All I wanted was $50,000 seed money. And I had to walk through 6 different banks, getting rejected after rejected, given no reason. No reason was given why they did not, support my loan application. And I see that going around Detroit. I see that in urban areas, living conditions harder, even harder than some of the underdeveloped countries. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to my sister here, Representative Cynthia A. Johnson, for leading this effort. And I'm so happy to join her effort, because I remember my roots, and I remember the stigma of poverty that I had to deal with. So I thank you. I thank you all for being here. I thank you for your support. And let's all work together.
Yes, 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 yes.
Amen.
Yes, yes, yes. I wanted to touch on, just briefly, I want to talk to my white brothers and sisters. And I didn't finish what I was about to say, but legacy and family wealth equals future generations. Whatever you have today, it is not only because of you, but it is because of the generations before you. If we can all agree with that, then my requesting that big businesses do the right thing and share the wealth to businesses such as those that Representative Shri Thanadar just spoke of, how he, as a black man, as a brown man, go to one bank after another and be rejected and you feel let down. There's some people who can handle that. But there's so many people who just give up. And I'm telling you, my white brethren and sisters, there's enough for all of us. General Motors, Ford Motor Company, Amazon, name somebody else. Call them out. Oh, Chase Bank. Chase Bank, by the way, has ties to slavery, in case you didn't know. There are several others, and I wish I had that list. Oh, I wish I had that list. But there's a lot of businesses that we all deal with, that we all give money to, who has deep-rooted ties to racism. After all, it's 2022, so 1922, that's 100 years. Then from 1822 to 1922, we all know somebody, or we all have relatives within those 2 centuries. So don't tell me that you didn't live during that time. No, you did not. But you are reaping generational wealth. And when I turn on the TV and I see old time black folks serving as servants and cleaning toilets and cleaning hotel rooms, I think to myself now, wow, that's how you saw us. That's how you see us. That's how you believe we are, but guess what? It's not. Michigan, you have an opportunity to make things right. And I am asking each and every one of you, never, ever give up. We may not win this fight, but we can never give up for what you know is right. Young people, I'm so glad to see the young people. Sometimes you're going to be encouraged but discouraged. You hold on to what you know is right but won't hurt other people, then you are right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Are there any questions for either Representative Shri Thanadar or me? And thank you. Oh, we did pretty good.
You did good.